Here are some strategies for learning blood vessels and understanding blood flow. Number 1, treat blood vessels like a road map. They're connected just like streets. Number 2, when you're starting out, definitely keep it simple. And number 3, practice, practice, practice. Anatomy is all about repetition. Blood vessels, like streets, change names in really specific ways as they travel through the body. First, you can have a road that forks or bifurcates. You can see A here splits to become two separate arteries, B and C. Or you could have a main road that has side streets or branches. So for example, we have main artery A, it's got branch labeled B, branch labeled C, but notice that A just keeps on going. Third, you could have a road that changes names at a certain point or a landmark. This is like how Cumberland Avenue becomes Kingston Pike in Knoxville. For example here, if we start out as artery A, we cross our little landmark and we change names to become artery B. All right, number 2, keep it simple. Drawing is an excellent strategy to practice blood vessels, and it can be tempting to draw out a picture with the most detail possible because you don't want to leave anything out. The problems with that are, first, you might not be good at drawing, and 2, it can make it harder to understand the branching pattern of blood vessels. In my road map analogy, it's a lot easier to work out the map with a simple diagram than with like a detailed street view. When you're starting out, you really want to stick to line diagrams. They're easy to draw and it strips away extra details that can be confusing to look at first. Also, when you're starting out, don't draw diagrams that overlap like this one. If you're not confident in the branching patterns, this can make it really hard to understand. A single perfect diagram isn't enough to stick blood vessels into your memory. Draw them over and over and check your work. Identifying and correcting mistakes is a huge part of metacognitive learning strategies. Once you can draw out a particular pattern easily, then you can start adding to it. Once you feel confident, you should try drawing your arteries and veins side by side. This can help you understand how those vessels might be different from one another. Now that you're confident in your patterns, it's time to study in different ways. One is that you can try to trace blood from point A to point B. If blood vessels are a road map and red blood cells are cars, then blood flow is the driving directions. For example, if I want to get blood from the heart to the right upper limb, I'm going to have to travel through the parts of the aorta to the branching of the brachiocephalic trunk and the right subclavian artery, and then to the right upper limb. Or if I wanted to come back, I'd go start in the right subclavian vein, drain into brachiocephalic vein, then into the superior vena cava, which drains into the heart. Go back and see that this matches your branching patterns as an additional check on your studying. So what's next? You're confident with your branching pattern and you're comfortable navigating to different points in the body. Now it's time to practice identifying blood vessels in different ways. You want to work with different types of media for a couple different reasons. First, different variations of blood vessels are common. Your textbook will show you an arrangement that's typical, but there's lots of variation and some books may pick a different arrangement as the typical one. Second, different illustrators or models will show your structures differently, in part because of this natural variation, and in part because all of these are an artist's best approximation of real life. Finally, real life, like a cadaver, a patient, or medical imaging, will look very different than illustrations or models. Working with different models, diagrams, and images will make sure you can identify blood vessels in any context and not be thrown off if the image you're tested on isn't the one you studied. I hope these general tips and tricks were helpful. In future videos, I'm going to go through specific examples of artery and veins to help you start on your drawing journey. Good luck!